fields did pass in springtime, in springtime, in springtime, the only pretty ring time, when birds do sing, hey ding-a-ding-a-ding, hey ding-a-ding-a-ding, hey ding-a-ding-a-ding, sweet love is loud as spring.
Hello, my name is Callum Foreman. I'm 23 years old and I come from Peebles. And I was involved with Shakespeare at Traquair from a fellow in 2009 until I left for university in 2015.
Hi, my name is Boyd Wild and I've been a member of Shakespeare at Traquair since 2004. My first show in that year was Merchant of Venice, and I played the part of Tubal, who was a merchant friend of Shylock. Since then I've been in around 16 other productions, mostly performed in and around the beautiful grounds surrounding Traquair House, one or two inside in the theatre, usually the Eastgate or occasionally elsewhere.
Hi, my name is Esme Babineau. I'm 19 years old. I come from near Kelso and I've been involved with SAT since 2013, so 7 years now.
So the lines I've chosen are Duke Orsino's opening lines from Twelfth Night. If music be the food of love, play on. Give me excess of it. That surfacing, the appetite may sicken, and so die. Oh, that strain again, it had a dying fall. It came o'er my ear like the sweet south, that breathes against a bank of violets, stealing and giving odour. Enough, no more. 'Tis not so sweet as it was before. So I think what initially drew me to the piece was the way that Mike Boyd had performed it when we did do Twelfth Night. And the whole character of Orsino, I mean, he made him a kind of very likeable fool, and I've seen other productions where I really didn't like the character, so I think it was fantastically done. But as I've kind of gone through my teenage years and now into my early 20s, I definitely have viewed these specific lines in very different ways at very different stages of my life, and I feel it's one of those pieces that I'll continue to have a different relationship to as I get older, and that's always the sign of good writing.
If I had my mouth, I would bite. If I had my liberty, I would do my liking. But in the meantime, let me be that I am and seek not to alter me. It's not necessarily my favourite line, but it is something that comes up in my head a lot. I think about it a lot. Because it's essentially saying, let me be myself. And sure, it's being said by the most evil character in the play, who has literally no redeemable features and is merely responsible for the destruction of a marriage and the death of a young woman. But, the message is still there.
My favourite speech comes from a part I played in The Winter's Tale, and I played the part of an old shepherd in that. I like this speech because it forms a strict division between the first part of the play, which is set in the court of Leontes and is very grey and sombre and dramatic, and much of the second half, which is set in the country of Bohemia, which is much jollier. There's music and dancing, lots of country folk and so forth. And in this speech, the old shepherd is bemoaning the local youths. It's an age-old lament from the elderly, I suspect. They've made loads of noise, they've scared all these sheep off, and really, he's thoroughly fed up with them. Halfway through it, he hears a baby crying. And this baby is the baby Perdita, who had been abandoned there by Antigonus on the order of Leontes. Antigonus, meanwhile, had been chased off stage left by a bear, and I think the bear now is currently in the process of killing poor old Antigonus. And meanwhile, the old shepherd hears the baby, finds her, and starts to wonder where she came from and what to do with her. Here's the speech. I would there were no age between 16 and 3 and 20, or that youth would sleep out the rest. For there is nothing in the between but getting wenches with child, stealing, fighting. wronging the ancientry. But hark you now. Oh, good luck be thy will, what have we here? Oh, mercy on us, a barn. A very pretty barn. A boy or a child, I wonder. Sure some scape. And though I am not bookish, yet I read a waiting gentlewoman in the scape. This has been some stair work, some trunk work, some behind the door work. Yeah, so that's the speech.
I think the main stage S&T, if we're not counting the fringe shows, I most enjoyed playing Claudio in Much Ado or Nothing, which is controversial because is it Ian McKellen who's like, I hated playing Claudio, he really, really hates it. I think I enjoyed it partly because I like that character, and I like the many, many different ways you could play him. He's ridiculous. But also like the group of people, that was a really like fun year, and it was like what at that time my like biggest Shakespearean role, so it's really exciting to do. It was, yeah, Claudio.
Item, that no woman shall come within a mile of my court. Has this been proclaimed?
4 days ago.
Well, let's see the penalty. On pain of losing her tongue. Who devised this penalty?
Marry, that did I.
Sweet lord, and why?
To fright them, hence with that dread penalty.
Dangerous law against gentility.
If we're counting the fringe shows too, Romeo, but that was a very edited version of Romeo, so I'd like to do him again, but in the full play. So that answers both those questions.
I think the one I've enjoyed most was the first time I played a proper comedy role, which was in A Comedy of Errors, funnily enough. And I played one of the servant twins, Dromio. I was Dromio of Ephesus, and Scott Noble, who played my twin, Dromio of Syracuse. It was helpful that we were both of a similar height, and similar generally physically. We had a pair of ridiculous sort of very curly red wigs and the same costume. But we were similar enough to convince at least one member of the audience that we were just one actor. And this particular lady was completely flummoxed by the fact that the same actor could be in two entirely different locations within a very short space of time. So yeah, that was my favourite role, first main comedy role, and I really enjoyed that.
Mistress, my master is horn mad.
Horn mad, thou villain!
I mean, not cuckold mad, but sure he is stark mad. When I desired him to come home to dinner, he asked me for 1,000 marks in gold. "'Tis dinner time," quoth I. "My gold," quoth he. "The meat doth burn," quoth I. "My gold," quoth he. "Will you come home?" quoth I. "My gold," quoth he. "Where is the 1,000 marks I gave thee, villain?"
Well, as to future roles, well, I guess my age bars me from the possibility of Romeo or a romantic lead. Traditionally, King Lear is reserved for the older male actor, but I think that's a heavy role and it's not necessarily best suited to me. What I would like a crack at some point, if we ever get back to it, is Malvolio in Twelfth Night. Again, it's a comedy role, but Malvolio plays it with utter seriousness, which hopefully would make it even funnier.
So my first memory of Shakespeare at Traquair was rehearsing for Othello, Act 1, Scene 2, when there's kind of a confrontation between various characters. I think I really remember it because it was the first time I'd done so-called proper acting in a very serious play, as opposed to panto, which is all I'd done before, and just being able to kind of see what kind of serious acting was really like with really great actors was fantastic. I think also the fact that I got to carry a massive halberd kind of spear thing was very enjoyable.
My first memory of S&T is going to the medieval festival which that year was also the Shakespeare Festival. I'm going to that because I like Shakespeare, and we knew some people, I think, maybe doing stalls, and not knowing that Shakespeare at Traquair was on, but it was on in the evening. It was 12th night, that was in 2012, and seeing some people we knew some people from Bordeaux Theatre who were already in that show, Caitlin, who played Viola that year, we vaguely knew, so we were like, oh, let's stay around and watch. We'd love to see the play, we'd love to see some people we already know in it. And it was amazing, it was fantastic. I loved 12th Night so much. And then the next year I was like, I'm going to be in it this time, and I've never left.
My first memory of Shakespeare at Traquair, I guess, really it would be as an audience member. My wife and I had seen a couple of shows prior to the first one I was in. We saw the original production of Taming of the Shrew, and then Much Ado About Nothing. And although I'd been involved with the theatre for many years prior to that, I'd never encountered outdoor promenade theatre, and immediately struck with it and smitten with it, to be honest, and really felt that I wanted to have a go at this. And so the opportunity arose perhaps a couple of years after that, when I was offered a part in Merchant of Venice.
My favourite memory, though, is probably a myriad of ones from Romeo and Juliet, where I was working with Richard Nisbet and Matthew Burgess. I learned a lot from them during those roles. That time, I played Benvolio to their Malvolio and Romeo, and yeah, it was just a great time, great experience, and was my first proper role.
Romeo, away, be gone. Stand not amazed. The prince will do me death if thou art found. Hence, be gone away.
I am fortune's fool.
Why dost thou stay?
And my favourite memory? That's really hard. I love everything. All of the memories are my favourite. I think maybe getting my first role in it. I think maybe being accepted into the cast and feeling like I was doing something, because I'd done Shakespeare. I'd performed Shakespeare once before. I'd always loved it, but I'd only performed it once before. So getting in, even just playing the Herald back in 2013 in King Lear, I was just super excited that they let me in. So that's a nice memory. And at the same time, my friend Anna, it was her first year, and we've been friends since, so we're good buddies now. So it's really nice to think back to those times and remembering us as young children performing Shakespeare.
Favourite memories? That's difficult. There have been so many great ones. Picking one's almost impossible. Matt Davis's Malvolio was superb, but there again, there have been so many wonderful personal performances. I suppose what stands out for me is the emergence and development of the youngsters. Some show talent from the word go, and others simply blossom as their confidence develops. And it's been a delight to see and be a part of that over the years.
My favourite production would have to be Romeo and Juliet, in which I played Benvolio. It was the first proper role I'd had in a Shakespeare Traquair production, and I was wonderfully mentored by both Kath Mansfield, the director, and Matthew Burgess, who played Romeo. So yeah, I think it was my favourite because of all the important lessons I learned.
My favourite production, I guess, is Taming of the Shrew, which I directed 2-3 years back. I just have happy memories about this, and being a director sometimes can be a stressful, indeed unpleasant experience. This wasn't. This was a happy cast as far as I could tell. It gelled really well, the cast gelled really well. We were blessed, we were blessed with some really nice weather and not too many midges. I think they'd been seen off by a particularly cold spring that year. And yeah, it seemed to work really well. We had huge audiences, I think something in excess of 800 people.
My favourite production? That's another impossibility, really. I thought As You Like It was great, probably because I'm a 60s person and the music was fantastic, as was the set. But perhaps the two that I directed, or was lucky enough to direct, stick in the mind as well. The Tempest, because of those fantastic youngsters again, who acted as my aerials. I still have memories of them perched up in the branches of the yew trees, holding their lights and shining white in the dark. And one of them having to go home with hypothermia at the interval, and the others just taking on his lines as though nothing had happened. And of course Othello, mainly because of the wonderful performance of Scott, Steve, Leah and Kirsty, particularly after such an awful dress rehearsal. But my word, did they pull it off on the night, despite the cold and the screeching peacocks. So, and I suppose Merchant of Venice again, because it was my first one, is another great memory.
My favourite production is probably King Lear as well again, just because it was great. I mean, they're all great, but like, I think I loved King Lear the most because I don't know, I think just like everything really came together that production. Like Matt was incredible as Lear, the costumes worked so perfectly, the kids were like super involved. I, as a kid, got my first part there, and like I was at most rehearsals, even the ones I didn't need to be at all, which is something I do less now because I'm too busy to turn up to rehearsals I'm not needed for. So I think just like feeling really involved, and just getting to watch everyone's scenes and read in if someone was missing, that obviously all still happens, but like I felt like so involved and welcomed that first year, so I think I love that play.
That's an interesting question, but I think what it gave me was a great sense of community from the word go. When we moved here, it was a pivotal time in our lives, and I found a welcoming, talented and very supportive group of new friends who were so important in making the move to Peebles such a rewarding one.
The impact that Shakespeare at Traquair has had on my wider life is really validating me in the sense that I want to be a professional actor, and obviously I'd been involved with youth theatres around the borders for a while, but SAT was the first thing I did which really felt professional. You know what I mean? I mean, like technically it's amateur or semi-professional, I don't know. It's just a group of people who love Shakespeare, but like the standard, like the quality of acting and of, you know, all the behind the scenes things and just a production year after year, you know, made it feel so professional. So it really validated one, my choice to become an actor, but like me, I felt like I was going up in the world, and it gave me that confidence to actually go up in the world. And I've made loads and loads of friends from it who I love and cherish and hopefully will do for the rest of my life. So it's just great.
It's a hard one. Yes, it clearly has an impact. I have gained a thorough appreciation of Shakespeare, which I didn't have before, and you can only do that by being in the Shakespeare play, to be honest. You've got to try and untangle and teasel out the various meanings and inferences from the text, and then transmit that across to an audience in a form and a shape that they understand. So yeah, I reckon I've got my ear in for Shakespeare, and could listen to or watch a Shakespeare play and pretty much get the gist of what's going on straight away. Yeah, I mean, it introduced me to promenade and outdoor theatre, which again, as I mentioned earlier, I had no previous experience or exposure to. And it just is a way of getting involved in theatre and making lifelong chums. And you know, it's just really good fun.
So yeah, the impact Shakespeare at Traquair has had on my wider life is it's definitely made me much more confident as a public speaker. I think the lessons I learned in projection and how to carry yourself and where to put pauses in your speech, while I haven't continued to do acting in my further life, I have had to do a lot of presentation, both when I was at school and in university. So I think one of my main takeaways has just been the confidence, to do public speaking.
No, the summary would be a lot. It means a lot. Yeah, it's just good. It's given me more confidence in performing Shakespeare, reading Shakespeare, understanding it, and in being an actor, and really given me the chance to be a better actor. So it means the world. That's a good way of summarising it. It means the world. It means Shakespeare at Traquair means friendship and performance and bonding over something that everyone loves, which is Shakespeare and theatre. And yeah, it's just a lot. It means a lot.
Shakespeare at Traquair for me is the part of home that I always miss.
Well, to me, it's about teamwork, an amazing array of talent, both on the scene and off, and a bridge across the ages. It's community at its very, very best, with everybody looking to help each other. It's about resilience, whether it's dealing with the elements, the midges, broken ankles, screeching peacocks, or lost lines. It's about the thrill of seeing youngsters giving jaw-dropping performances, delighting their audience, and developing a love of Shakespeare at such a young age. It's also about an appreciation of the incredible work done by the backstage crew, costume team, the props and makeup, the music, front of house, publicity. They're all fabulous.
I guess mostly it could be summed up in one word, just involvement. You just get stuck in. If you were a new member, you wouldn't expect, I didn't expect anyway, to get a lead part, unless perhaps you were a wrestling professional. I think it probably took me no more than that, 5 or 6 years, even more, before I got a slightly larger part. But that's not to say that I didn't enjoy the smaller ones equally well. In fact, in some senses, you could say they're even more enjoyable. You haven't got quite the same level of work, but you still get involved, you're still there, you're still making friends, and part of the whole process. And I think that's what it is. It's being part of a big, welcoming group. Every year we get upwards of 20 youngsters involved who seem more than happy to undergo the occasional rigours of rehearsing out in the rain and the weather and come back again each year. And I think, if memory serves, out of all the years we've been going, we've had any number, perhaps half a dozen or more of our youngsters have gone on to become professional actors and earn at least partly earn their living from the theatre. And I think that's a wonderful achievement to introduce youngsters to Shakespeare. And I hope we'll continue to do that for a very long time.
I think a really important thing to remember is that you shouldn't be afraid to suggest an idea when rehearsing for a scene. I know sometimes it can be intimidating if you have more experienced people around you, but it could be that your idea is the best idea and could really add to the production. So please, suggest your ideas. It might really add to the piece.
Now, when it comes to yourself, if you've not been involved with us and are thinking about it, then just do it. Whether you're interested in acting, music, or backstage, you're guaranteed a warm welcome and you'll be rewarded with exciting projects and new and lasting friendships.
The advice that I would give to potential new members of SAT is, one, just do it. Just go for it. Like, it might seem like a scary jump to join a new group, and especially Shakespeare if you might not know it before, but you do not need to know about Shakespeare to learn and to get a good experience and a good performance out of you in Shakespeare Traquair. It's like everyone's so supportive and lovely, and you will love everyone. Yeah, just do it. Once you're there, just give it your all. It's easy. It's easy to be involved with SAT. I don't think you need that much advice. But the advice is definitely just do it and go for it, and throw yourself into it and learn your lines. Learn your lines way before you need to. Learn your lines as soon as you get them, because you can act so much better and you won't have the director yelling at you to learn your lines. That's my advice. Learn your lines.